Welcome to another edition of the Motion Live, everybody. Hey, it's Morris Lilienthal. All right, I know if you're like me, and this is a first world problem, but I am missing sports right now. I am like sports craving. I'm almost willing to watch the Korean Baseball League on ESPN right now. So I am dying for sports, and so this is one of the reasons I'm really excited about today's show. We're going to be talking hoops. We're going to be talking specifically UAH basketball, and I'm excited about doing that. So tonight's show, we have four of the UAH seniors on the men's and women's team, and I'm excited because I've been following these players for the last several years. And if you're not familiar with UAH basketball, UAH plays in the Division II level, and they play in the Gulf South Conference. And in both the men's and women's teams, very competitive leagues. If you go out and you watch these games, you're going to see great players on all the teams in the league, and really competitive games, and a lot of great athletes and a lot of great plays being made. And the only difference between this and Division I is maybe a few inches here or there and a few pounds here or there. But great players, great athletes, and great things going on. So with that, let me go ahead and introduce our guests real quick. Our guests are Katie Speegle, Aryn Sanders, David Anderson, and Dalton Barkley. And I don't want to leave out that fellow senior Malik Stroop could not join us tonight, but he was also a senior on the men's team. And so I want to recognize him as well. But we're going to be chit-chatting a little bit about their playing careers, talking a little bit about, some of the characteristics and traits maybe they picked up playing sports and what they think that might carry over into their business life after this. And we'll talk a little bit about how the season ended. A little disappointing for all these guys and how their season ended, and talk about what's next. What's on the horizon for these guys coming up after their playing careers are wound down. So, the show's being recorded, and so we're broadcasting that way. But if you've got questions, we'll monitor the comments in the feed afterwards. Or if you want to put comments or feed or say hello, give a little shout out to that, please put that in the comments there, and we'll monitor those and try to get information back to you, because we'll all be monitoring the feed afterwards. So I guess I'd start out, guys. So, you guys all played 4 or 5 years, depending on, maybe, I'm not sure if you all redshirted or not, but what was that like initially coming in? Thinking back 4 or 5 years ago when you first came to UAH to play, what was that transition like coming from, high school basketball into a very competitive D2 league with a very competitive program? Katie, let's start with you. What was that like for you?
It was a little bit of a shock to me. I think I learned I was extremely out of shape my entire high school career, but Coach Lemon really whipped me into shape pretty quick. But I think I realized I'm able to adapt and adjust to whatever situation I get put in, and I fell in love with my team, and it just made it the best experience.
Yeah, well, that'll pay dividends, and you're going to learn, and I'm sure you probably have learned through your academic career already that being able to adapt and adjust and learning that from sports is going to be big for you. Aryn, what do you think? What was something that sticks out to you?
I agree. In high school, I actually played 4 different sports my senior year, so I had never really got to fully focus on basketball. So one big thing for me was actually getting to spend the whole year focusing on one sport and perfecting my game, not perfecting, but making it better. And like Katie, she said getting in shape. Mine was more like a strength issue. I had never lifted weights before I got to college. So I was really little coming in, and then just working with Coach T and kind of building up that muscle and weight was really big for me freshman year.
Yeah, well, that's certainly a big difference. I know for a lot of athletes coming out of high school to college that the strength and conditioning program, I think, is the proper term now they say and doing. But I know that's a big difference. Dalton, what about you? What was kind of looking back? What was the biggest transition for you?
Yeah, biggest transition was for me was I redshirted my first year, so I'm extremely thankful for that, getting to do that. But I didn't really know what to expect. You think you can prepare as much as possible, but you don't really know until you get, there and practicing every day against those guys. And I just tried to soak in as much as I could every day, every practice, every conditioning session, every weight session, just tried to soak in as much as possible that first year.
Yeah. Well, that's the advantage of redshirting. I mean, I think, everybody's, I'm sure comes in with the glaze of you want to come out there and start or have a lot of playing time your freshman or, year or two. But, for in reality, for most people, that's not the case. And so you got to, pay your dues and learn your role and do that. And that's, it's just part of it. David, what about you, man?
The biggest adjustment was just getting used to the speed of the game at the college level. In high school, you can play 32 minutes a game, be fine. But in college, it's a lot faster. And like Dalton, I was able to redshirt as well, and I think that was huge for both of us because I don't think we both knew we probably weren't going to play our freshman year. So just getting that year under our belt, being able to get in the weight room and learn our offense and stuff, and just get fit really well. And I think that was really good for us.
Was that a big transition too, in terms of, you bring up a good point there, in terms of learning the game itself, in terms of the offense and the technical side of it? Because, I don't know, each of you came from different high schools and how that may have been with your high school teams. And I would assume, for most people, if you're playing college sports, you were probably one of the best players typically on your high school team. And it may have been a little more one-on-one or just pick and roll type offense, but coming into where you're running sets and doing that, was that a big adjustment for you guys?
It was, but thankfully, a lot of our practices and stuff, we run a lot of the concepts that we go over each and every day. So every day we were practicing that stuff and just getting it down pat. And then once we got it, it was like, it was simple from there. But yeah, Dalton can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I think another thing too is that when we as we were learning this, we got to learn it from really great players that were sitting out. We were practicing against those guys every day and just learning from them and how they played. They were so smart and their basketball IQ was through the roof. So being able to learn from them and how they saw the game and how they played, I think that really played a big factor too.
And what about for you in terms of learning the system, and did you and Katie find that when you guys came in your first year or two, that the elder statesmen of the teams at that time were pretty giving about, I'm sure they were razzing, but that's just part of doing it and giving you a hard time. It's just natural in sports, and all fun. But in terms of grooming you and helping you come along to learn the offense and kind of teaching you how to handle all the logistics and what comes with big time D2 basketball.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And our system was very structured at the time. You really had to know it to get the minutes that you wanted to play. Like, they can't just throw you in there unless they trust you with the system. And I was really grateful. Katie can speak to this too. When we were freshmen, there would be upperclassmen that would stay back and work with us for an hour before after practice and just run the plays with us, just so that we felt comfortable and that the coaches felt comfortable if they did want to put us in the game, that we knew what we were doing. We weren't just going to go in there and do something crazy. So Katie can speak more to that, but the upperclassmen were such a blessing. And yeah, it's very different than high school. We had a lot of different things that we were throwing out there, and to remember them all at once was overwhelming at first, but you did get the hang of it.
Sure. Katie, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think just what Aryn said, our upperclassmen, when we came in, specifically I came in from a program that we ran off straight talent. I mean, we played a lot of street ball, we just read each other and played. And then we came in to UAH and we ran a Princeton offense, and you had a strict role on the team, and, you had a place you had to be in every possession. And that took me out of a comfort zone I was in, because I like to play with my back to the basket. And then Coach Lemon's like, hey, get this ball at the top of the key and dribble it at Aryn, and she's going to back cut 500 miles per hour and pass it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But I had a chance coming in as a freshman to start, and I started probably over half our games. And I think it just really shows the character that Coach Lemon recruits, because there were seniors or juniors on our team, and they were trying to help me, a freshman, come in and start over them. And it just kind of shows that, she really recruits people who are here and dedicated to our program and want to see the best for us. Well,
I 100% agree based on my interaction with both programs and being involved from outside in. But, getting to know you guys a little bit and some of your peers in the last couple of years through social media, and getting to attend the camps that you guys put on, and y'all involvement with the campers and how much y'all care about the kids. So, I think that's true that it seems to me that you guys, the coaches there, have really quality players, but not only quality players, but quality people. And that really, you build a bond, and when you can get, each person's got their own personality. There's no doubt about that. And that's fine. And you're going to mesh with different people. That's just part of being on a team, part of real life. But when you've got people who are all in and know that we're all fighting for the same cause, and we're not going to be selfish about it, it makes it much easier to accomplish the goals that you guys are trying to accomplish. Let me transition to something else that always intrigues me when I talk to college athletes and I know I have my beliefs, but I want to get your feedback on this. and that is, you guys, for folks that are watching the show here, watching the replay and stuff, the school UAH is a very academically rigorous school, very tough, very good, and Huntsville is known for UAH being a great institution in a lot of disciplines. And trying to maintain your academic career, stay on point and do is tough, especially during season when you are traveling and doing. And folks, let me tell you, if you're playing D2, you're not flying anywhere. You're getting on a bus or a van and driving somewhere. I remember those days playing college football, and it's tough. I mean, you're driving to Jackson, or you're driving to Tennessee, or you're driving to Georgia somewhere, wherever you guys are playing, and it may be a 2 or 3 day road trip and trying to get your schooling. But how did that work? Dalton, talked a little bit about what the kind of discipline and time management and how you guys manage that.
Yeah, a big thing for me was having a good relationship with my teachers, because if they understood that what I was kind of going through and having to travel a bunch and having all to deal with all these other classes as well, to get them on my side, I guess, and just have that relationship with them to be able to understand and kind of have some lenience and stuff. But it is tough. I mean, it is tough when you are getting to a hotel, late at night after traveling, being on the road all day long, and then not really feeling like you want to do homework, but it's an assignment that's got to be due, so you got to stay up in the hotel room, you got to get it done. And then, so for me, that's the biggest thing for me.
Daly, was there an adjustment with schooling and trying to figure that out, the balancing of meeting your academic and your athletic requirements and doing?
It's definitely tough, but I think at the end of the day, we all realize that we're there to get our degree, most importantly. And, basketball is just a huge bonus. But, in order to play basketball, you have to pass those classes. So I think using that as motivation for those classes is kind of key to keep yourself in check, and just to, those long bus rides are tough when you're doing homework on the bus and stuff, but it's all worth it. It's all part of the process. And I think you just got to keep yourself in check and realize that you're there to get your degree, and keep that in mind the whole time.
Yeah, and folks, if you're watching, I mean, certainly now I will say not everybody's Josh Majette. He's playing, pro basketball, from UAH, but there are a lot of people some D2 that play overseas and do things. But in the whole, large, overwhelming majority, we all understand that you guys are going to go on to some other career. But certainly, as I said at the top of the show, it's a very competitive league. But Katie, for you, was that a big adjustment, or were there certain things that you figured out that helped you, kind of like Dalton said, maybe coordinating with your professors, or is there anything that helped you to kind of manage your time better?
Well, I'm in nursing school, so management was very difficult because, my junior year, Aryn can, talk a little bit on this, but we would get off the bus at midnight, and I'd have to be up at 3:30 for clinical and be there at 4:30. And so it was difficult. And, there's really nothing the teachers can do for you at that point. They're giving you the best schedule they can give you. But it just comes down to prioritizing. You need to figure out, I'd be doing homework on the bus, I sit by the toilets and, cramming as much work as I can. I would wake up earlier trying to get extra clinical hours in where I could, because I knew I had a game at the end. But, specifically my senior year, it became more difficult because I would be doing ER clinicals around 8 hours before I'd come in straight to a game. And so, it just came down to prioritizing, really. And, Aryn might speak on this a little bit, but I had to miss a lot my senior year. I had to miss a lot of team bonding experiences, a lot of our weightlifting. I had to do it on my own. And, I think ultimately it just comes down to learning time management, and that just comes with the college experience.
Yeah. Aryn, do you anything different? Anything you want to add to that from your experience?
I totally agree with what everybody has said. Prioritizing those relationships with your professors. And one thing that I found was really good for me was just knowing that your team is also kind of like a support system. I feel like me and Katie kind of talked about it, especially this year when she did have those concerns. She would come to me, we would talk it out, try and think of ways that we could solve those issues. And then just over my 4 years, yes, we are all, on different paths, going towards different majors, degrees, whatever, but we're all going through the same thing with practice, games, road trips, exams. So my team was great for that, because coaches were great for that. I remember one time, like I had a week, it was the worst week. I had a test like every day, like 5 tests, 5 days. And we were having like 6 o'clock practice every day. And I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. And Coach K, our assistant coach, she like messaged me after practice, was like, hey, come by the office really quick. I was like, oh gosh, like am I in trouble? Cause I'm like having a bad week. And she had like gone to my favorite coffee shop and like got me like a latte, and she's like, chill out. Like you just need to relax. So like things like that are always really important to me. And I really valued that. And I do think that helped me in some of my harder times in my collegiate career.
Yeah, I think leading your teammates is great, and that just develops those interpersonal relationships that you do. It's one of the things that when I talked to some guys in a prior show, as I mentioned before, we started recording about that, and we were talking about traits we learned that made us successful professionals. And one of the things that one of them talked about that I hadn't really thought about was learning personal relationships and dealing with different people on the team and doing it, because we each have our own individual personality. We know that just in life, and that you can watch that just by, some of the people on y'all's teams are more dynamic and outgoing, and you're going to see their emotions come out. And other people, it's just straight face. They could have just scored the winning basket, and they're going to have the straight face just about that they're going to have if they just missed that basket. And other people are, the opposite. For me, my recollection on some of this is that playing football is a little different than basketball, but I did better academically when I was in season than I did out of season, because I had to be so much more structured. I had more free time when we weren't playing, and I had a little bit of lax time to do. So I totally agree with you guys. Structure is super important for maintaining that balance that you need, and understanding that the primary purpose there is getting your education. Folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the Mo Show Live. Our guests today are UAH basketball seniors Katie Speegle, Aryn Sanders, David Anderson, and Dalton Barkley. And we're kind of talking a little bit about their careers and how they got started, and their memories of kind of bumps and going on the road starting out, and then a little bit about time management and stuff like that. I kind of like to shift, everybody, we're dealing in this outbreak and the COVID-19 era and this has affected us in so many ways. And certainly this is, a smaller way than it's affecting the people that, we're sadly have been stricken with this and fallen ill. But no doubt this has impacted you guys from athletically and academically. And if you were going to be set to be graduating, you weren't going to have the graduation that you probably and your families were expecting, and having that moment, that picture, and that memory. And from an athletics perspective, I know each of you guys, for folks watching, each of these teams made the NCAA tournament this year. And what little I know is that best I recall trying to keep track so I could watch it and and my contacts with you guys is, you guys were practicing at the sites and doing, and then boom, you found out you weren't playing. So I'd love to kind of find out just from each of you, how it transpired, what you guys were hearing, and then, kind of, I assume, kind of a sour taste left in your mouth. And I know it may not be fun to talk about, but I think people probably want to know and do that. But Aryn, kind of tell me, I think you guys were going to be up in Chattanooga playing, right?
We were, which was especially exciting for me because I'm from that area. And so I was really looking forward to it. And to me, like looking back after reflecting on it, it just seems like it happened so fast. Like there was no problem at all. And then in a matter of like 2 or 3 days, it was what it was. And so I think that kind of made it even worse, like not even really having an idea that this was a possibility until 48 hours before, when they started canceling, the NBA and all these bigger events. So we were all at the hotel. We had just gotten back from practice, and I was actually taking a nap. I'm like a really light sleeper. My phone was like on the side table, and it just started like blowing up. And I was like, oh no. I like was laying there half awake, and I just didn't want to check my phone because I knew that that's probably what it was. And Katie can speak more to it, but we all kind of just sat in the lobby of the hotel, and we were obviously all upset. Emotions were high. But then after, the initial shock period, we all sat around and kind of told stories and memories about the year and just reminisced. So it was really special, and it was a really fun time. And we didn't let that day go for waste. We decided we weren't going to sit around and be sad. We actually took our bus up to Chattanooga downtown and just hung out as a team. And it made it a lot easier. It was better than us just sitting around and being mopey all night. But it was definitely a very hard day, and not the way we wanted it to end. But we try to focus more on a great season that we did have and the memories we were able to make, and just kind of live on that.
Yeah, that sounds like the right way to take it. Katie, anything specific that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I was actually sitting in the lobby of the hotel doing homework, and I just remember looking up at this screen. There's a huge TV in the lobby, and it said, NCAA cancels all events because of Corona. And Coach Lemon walks down, and she's like, "You've got to be kidding me!" And then, I just started crying because I just thought I just ended practice, and that was my last time taking the court with my team. And I wish I had known, because I feel like I would have done things differently, and because I ended practice on the sideline drinking a Pepsi or something. Like, I had walked over to the sideline. I was like, gosh, I wish I had been on the court. And so, yeah, it was just Coach Lemon kind of flipped the mood, though. She said, let's celebrate our season instead of, grieve. She's like, because we had a really great season, we made history. And so that's what we did. Coach Lemon sang some karaoke, we told stories, and we ended on a good note. So
David, I know you guys were down in Florida. Talk to us a little bit about where you guys were and kind of what was going on with you guys.
Yeah, so we headed down to Lakeland on that Thursday morning, and we just got off the plane. I headed down to University of Tampa to practice, and some stuff had already been canceled. Like the NBA had started suspending their season on that Wednesday. We were actually supposed to go see Josh Majette play Thursday night, but they got canceled the night before. So that was kind of a bummer because we were all looking forward to that. But so we get off the plane, go to practice at Tampa, have a really good practice. Coach tells us, we can't control anything, but we're going to practice as if we're playing on Saturday. So we had a really good practice, and we're breaking down the huddle, and Taylor Flatt comes in there, and we just kind of knew like what he was about to say, and it was tough. It's probably the toughest time that I've had to deal with since I've been here. Just because we didn't know it was going to be the last time we were going to take the floor with our guys, and so yeah, we found out that, and for about an hour afterward, it was tough. I don't think I had any more tears left to cry, but we ended up going back to the hotel and everybody just hanging out with each other and kind of celebrating our season the right way. And Dalton can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, Dalton, I know you unfortunately got injured towards the end of the year and doing it. I'm sure that was stressful and upsetting to you, but kudos to you. I know that you were still there and supporting your teammates and being a leader off the court and doing. What's your memories of kind of how this ended? Anything you want to add to what David was telling us?
Yeah, well, since my season got ended a little earlier, so for me, I had that period of sadness for myself because my season was over with, but I knew I had to be there for those guys and still help and lead in any way I can. I wasn't going to let this thing, affect everybody else. So for me, I was more sad for them when the news broke. Since I had already had my period, I was just hurting for them, and it broke my heart because as special as this team was and what we had accomplished, I mean, who knows what could have happened. I'd like to think we could have went a long way, but I guess we'll never know now. But I was just heartbroken for them. It hurt me.
Well, it's just kind of uncharted waters, and I mean nobody has ever been through. I mean, could you imagine this time last year when you guys were juniors thinking, well, the NCAA tournament's going to be canceled? I mean, it's just no Major League Baseball, no the yada yada yada, and that's why I said as we all sit here today, first of May 6th, as we're recording this show, to think. There's no sports. I mean, ESPN struggling. I mean, and doing, and I think we're all struggling for it and doing. And, certainly the first and foremost and most important is everybody's health, without question. And then certainly people's livelihoods. But I think, as we've seen over the history of time, when tragedies happen, part of the fabric of our nation is sports. And that really brings us together. Look back at the things following 9/11 and this and that, and I can tell you, for me, I relish coming to watch you guys play and doing something we look to in those those nights during the week, or traveling up to Nashville. We watch the guys come up there and watch you guys play at Tribeca, or going over to Shorter when we're the only people in the gym to watch both of you guys play and doing. And so it's fun. And so I hate that for you guys and do, but it sounds like you guys did the right thing by saying, okay, this stinks, nice way to put it, and then let's kind of flip the script while we're still with everybody, and let's kind of relish and talk stories and cut up and think about what we accomplished this year and getting to the NCAA tournament. With that, I want to kind of end on a couple of things. One, I'd like to just do a quick roundtable and kind of go through if you've got a special memory of if it was a game you kind of showed out, or if there was a funny moment one year, or a game or something happened. And keep it kind of PG. I know that there's some behind the scenes when I remember playing and doing on the bus and doing things we might not want to share on Facebook Live and share out there. But seriously, is there something that sticks out to you that you're just like, man, when I think about my playing career, or one moment or two that it's like, wow, that was really cool for me, or the moment for the team or something like that. Aryn, what about you? Is anything that sticks out?
We had a couple awesome games and experiences in my 4 years. Obviously, we didn't have the greatest record the first couple of years, but I think it was sophomore year. Was that when we beat UNA, and it was a crazy game. We beat UNA. UNA was awesome. It was before they went D1, so I think it was sophomore year. And that is a memory I think I'll remember for the rest of my life, tell my kids about it, just those games. A funnier part of that, which was not funny at the time, we went and played them 2 weeks later. And the Purge music, because we had beat them and they were really supposed to beat us. So they played the Purge music when we ran out, and then they beat us by 50. But we beat them the last time in Spraggins Hall, and that is a memory that I will take to my grave. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Katie?
I think I'll tell a funny Aryn story. She's just the best senior. It was just me and her graduating. So my freshman year I came in and, I met Aryn. I was like, oh my gosh, this girl's so bubbly. I'm just a very blunt person. I was like, this is going to be interesting. And so we had a conditioning test where we had to do pull-ups. And I was like, oh my gosh, I weigh 240 pounds. I can't do a pull-up. And so Aryn goes, it's okay, girl. I can't do a pull-up either. She gets up and does 15 pull-ups. 15. And I hung there and didn't do a single pull-up. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, I'll never forget that. That was one of my first Aryn experiences. So
well, some of the best, certainly we all have fond memories of a game or a moment, but I think some of my most fond memories are like that, are just something in the off season when we're in the weight room, or we're doing we were doing conditioning or riding in a bus or something like that, and something will trigger that memory, and it'll just makes me smile, or it'll makes me grab my phone and text that buddy and just start razzing them about something. Dalton, anything like that sticks out for you? A game moment or a memory, something that sticks out?
The biggest things for me is just winning those conference tournaments. Just to be able to be a part of those teams and just to be able to play in those games. Right. Well, the first one, not the second one, the first time, but just to be a part of those is something so special and just so rare, not a lot of people never get to experience that. So to be able to do it twice, nevertheless, I mean, that's, I can't explain how just thankful and blessed I was to be a part of those.
Yeah. And I was there for both those games, super exciting games. And one thing I will say, for folks watching that I think a lot of people probably watching are UAH fans or supporters, but the other people who may just watch the show, UAH for a Division II program has a tremendous following. And if you go to a home game, Spraggins, which is the name of the Coliseum, the facility is always packed out. And a lot of times on the road games, you see good crowds, and especially, Dalton, to your point, down at Samford University where the Gulf South Conference tournament is played, it was slammed this year. I remember going down and the whole half thing was full, and the pep band's there and everybody. So it was a really good turnout. David, what about you, man? Does anything stick out?
Yeah, a lot like DB. Nothing really tops winning the conference tournament and the conference championship. I mean, that's just a great feeling. But individually, the Rocket City Classic this year was a lot of fun. That was a fun moment for me. I grew up in Huntsville, and I had a lot of people come to the game and everything, just to be able to see me play, and I played well. But just being in the locker room and going on the road trips is something that I'm going to miss the most for sure.
Yeah.
You played football, so you know what the locker room's like. It's just being in there with the guys and just spending time with each other. It's just something that I'll treasure forever, and I'll truly miss when everything's all said and done. So.
Well, you definitely, folks, for folks watching that played sports in high school, especially if you played sports in college, you build these bonds because to put in the hours and the effort to play those games, there's a lot of time that most people don't realize how much is involved. It's not just a practice here or there, excuse me. It is a ton of time in the off season with your teammates and scheduled practices, non-scheduled practices. And I can tell you that I've been up at Spraggins before, and I'll walk in there, for Wyatt to shoot with somebody, and one of you guys is in the gym on the other end shooting. And that's not uncommon. There was no coach in there, nothing. It was you with whatever y'all call that contraption that feeds the balls and shoots the balls back out to you, or it's you with some cones doing drill work and doing it. And that's just a credit to you guys and doing. So what I'd like to do as we wrap up the show is I want to kind of find out what's going on, what's next. So David, we'll start back with you and go in reverse order this time. Kind of talk to us about what's next and what's on the horizon for you.
Yeah, so I accepted a job with Turner Construction here in Huntsville. I'll start actually on June 1st, so it's coming up pretty soon. I'll be an assistant engineer, kind of doing some cost estimating, working with some pre-construction stuff, and hopefully working up to be a project manager one day. That's my goal, to be a project manager. So, but I'm staying here in Huntsville and maybe living with Steve Webster. We'll see. Steve's a UAH alum and Charter great. So, but yeah, I'm staying here in Huntsville, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on the job. Dalton, what about you? What's next for you?
Well, I have an interview with Noah Basketball coming up, and then I've been talking to some civil engineering firms just to try to get interviews with them, and then just have some options just for me to pick through. So all that should be happening here in the next couple of weeks after I have my surgery and all that settles down, and then
Well, that's great. I mean, you've got a lot going on, and you've got options, and that's what you want. And when you go to a great school like UAH and you graduate, you're going to have those options. And I think one of the things that an employer knows, a prospective employer will appreciate about a college athlete, that if you can, the things we've been talking about the last 35 minutes, if you can learn how to prioritize and manage schedules and figure out the ups and downs of that, because I can tell you now, here I am 17 years later practicing law, the things that I deal with at the office, helping run a law firm and manage a law firm and doing marketing and all the things and being a dad, doing all these things that I do, that you guys have got ahead of you, I'll lean back heavily on those things that I learned playing sports. Katie, what about you? What's next for you? I know we were talking about nursing school earlier.
Yeah, I graduate in December from nursing school, so I'll graduate as an Aryn. My plan is, it's kind of up in the air. I'm kind of going off like where I feel called. I think I want to work in the ER for sure, but I am highly considering the military as a route because I go in as an officer and I'd work as a nurse. But I'm really just going wherever I feel called and I feel like God, wants me to be.
That's awesome. Well, I can tell you, is what I understand. There's a big calling for nurses in all aspects. Whether it's in the military or other fields and doing. And a lot of times, nurses are doing a lot of the heavy lifting and most of the heavy lifting. And we go into the doctor's office nowadays. Aryn, what's next for you?
So I actually started at Eglin Reitman Armstrong, which is a CPA firm here in town, last Friday as a staff accountant. So I'd been there all since January as for an internship during busy season. Obviously that kind of got pushed back, and but I did start full time there. I'm also in grad school at UAH, working towards my master's of accountancy, and then I plan to sit for the CPA exam, hopefully starting next spring. So I'll be in Huntsville for a while, and I'll be around at least for a couple more years.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations to all you guys. You sound like you've got, post-college careers in line and on track and doing, and that's a credit to you guys and a credit to your families and a credit to all the staff and coaches at UAH. Guys, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I want to thank you guys for being good role models for all the kids out there that come out and watch it and support you guys do. And if I can ever be of help to you, please reach out to me. I'd be glad to try to help and support you guys post-school any way I can and do. But, folks, I want to encourage you. The last thing I want to do, and I encourage when I've had some of the coaches on from UAH before, is to encourage you to go out. If you're here in the Huntsville area, I think a lot of people are missing out, and we have got a lot of people coming out for y'all's games and doing, but I think there's a lot of people missing out on some great basketball and great things. And, you're not having to shell out a lot of cash. You're not having to fight a lot of crowd traffic leaving and do it. It's an easy way to get in and out and have a fun time with family and your kids, if you got kids or grandkids, to go out and watch these great athletes compete and do. And you'll promise you, if you go to one game, you'll be back for a second one. Guys, thanks so much for your time, and I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.